Hey guys, tonight we dive headfirst into one of the most baffling mysteries in modern aviation, the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Imagine you're sitting comfortably on a Sunday evening, and suddenly a massive commercial airplane just vanishes into thin air over one of the busiest flight corridors in the world. You probably won't survive this story without scratching your head a few times or imagining every nightmare scenario possible. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always fascinating to see just how global this mystery feels. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're right there, following MH370 on a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, on March 8, 2014. The plane, a Boeing 777-200ER, carrying 239 souls, cruises at 35,000 feet, slicing through blue skies. Suddenly, radio contact is lost. Not a distress call, no warning, just silence. You feel the world stutter as air traffic controllers realize something's terribly wrong. It's like watching a magician make a billion-dollar aircraft disappear without a trace. Historians still argue whether the loss of this particular flight represents a turning point in aviation safety or is just an unlucky outlier among thousands of safe flights. As the clock ticks, you witness the mounting confusion, the scramble for explanations, and the dawning realization that this is no ordinary disappearance. What's quirky is how quickly the story took on a life of its own online. People speculating, mapping, theorizing, and even creating complex models and simulations to guess where the plane could have gone. One fringe tidbit you might not hear often. Some amateur sleuths claimed the plane had been hijacked and rerouted using a homemade EMP device. Totally unproven but wildly imaginative. So, as you sink deeper into this story, keep that image of the plane vanishing from radar as the puzzle's unsettling opening act. The mystery you're entering tonight isn't just about the lost plane, it's about all the questions, the chaos, and the sheer scale of what comes next. The search for MH370 is about to become one of the most expensive and exhaustive manhunts ever witnessed, stretching across oceans and decades. Right after MH370 vanished from radar, imagine yourself thrust into a frantic world where governments, experts, and volunteers scramble to find any sign of the missing plane. You're watching one of the largest multinational search efforts ever unfold, involving over 24 countries pooling resources across endless seas and skies. The initial theories? They swarm around mechanical failure, hijacking, or pilot error, each one dissected in real time by anxious investigators and obsessive internet detectives alike. You trudge through the unfolding chaos as coast guards and navies deploy aircraft, ships, and underwater sonar equipment to scan vast stretches of the South China Sea, and soon, the expansive Indian Ocean, where experts believe the plane could have diverted. Historians still debate whether the speed and scale of the international response were unprecedented, or if earlier coordination hiccups delayed progress in a critical early window. A quirky detail that spices up this chapter is how satellite phone pings from the plane's systems became the primary breadcrumbs in a digital haystack, leading investigators on a complex hunt through data arcs and satellite tracks. It's like trying to catch a whisper in a hurricane, a hunt for silence that has scientists and engineers working around the clock. You see how the search shifts and broadens, engulfing an area thousands of square miles wide, swallowing budgets and sparking diplomatic tensions. At this point, you realize that the mystery of MH370 has grown beyond a simple missing flight. It's a tale of international cooperation, technical wizardry, and human desperation wrapped together. As days turn into weeks, the world watches, collectively holding its breath. Online forums buzz with theories, some plausible and others wildly speculative. The public's fascination is palpable. The puzzle is part thriller, part tragedy, and part a reflection of our reliance on technology and the limits of human control. Through all this, you keep one question haunting the background. How can something so massive, so sophisticated, seemingly disappear without a trace? That question propels this epic search forward, and the ocean's embrace is just beginning to tighten. You find yourself staring at the endless expanse of the Indian Ocean. It's massive, merciless, and utterly indifferent. After the initial search zones near the plane's last known location yielded no concrete evidence, the focus shifted here, much farther west and south, in some of the most remote waters on Earth. The ocean's immensity is the grim antagonist in this story. It's the kind of vast, watery desert that swallows ships, planes, and secrets without leaving a trace. The Indian Ocean covers about 20% of the world's surface, and you quickly realize just how little of it is mapped in detail. Historians still argue whether the underestimation of this gargantuan, deep, and complex environment hampered early search efforts. The ocean's mood swings with currents, tides, and weather, creating an almost impossible challenge for the teams trying to pick up faint signals or wreckage. Here's a quirky tidbit. Oceanographers used floating buoys and even cargo ship routes to try to map where debris from MH370 could have drifted over years. They turned to drone submarines, machine-like fish scanning the seabed while you watch on monitors as blips flicker into existence in the cold underwater darkness. The sonar pulses feel like ghostly heartbeats in the abyss, matching the seriousness of the search with a strange kind of eerie beauty. The mystery gets thicker because, unlike land crashes with visible wreckage, this underwater hunt relies heavily on interpreting indirect clues, patterns, and cutting-edge science. The ocean floor's rugged terrain, with its underwater mountains and canyons, adds to the difficulty, leaving you wondering how modern technology fares when up against nature's oldest fortress. Despite helicopters, drones, and satellites, the ocean stubbornly keeps its secrets. It seems to mock every effort, turning the aircraft's disappearance into something almost mythic, an unstoppable force meeting an immovable ocean. Yet the searchers press on, driven not just by duty but hope, desperation, and a shared need for answers. So here you are, caught between human determination and nature's vast indifference, watching the world's most extensive oceanic mystery unfold quietly beneath crashing waves and endless horizons. You're now following the tantalizing trail of debris, tiny pieces of a vast, lost jigsaw puzzle washing up on distant shores. Years after MH370 vanished, bits of wreckage started appearing on beaches thousands of miles from the last known flight path, primarily along the East African coast and Indian Ocean islands. It's like finding fragments of a ghost ship that should have disappeared without a trace. Each piece, though small and battered, carries a heavy weight of hope, confusion, and unanswered questions. Historians still argue whether these debris findings genuinely locate the crash site or if ocean currents have redistributed them far from the actual impact zone. You imagine the painstaking work done by international experts poring over each fragment, a wing flap here, a piece of luggage panel there, trying to link them back to MH370 conclusively while keeping the lines open for other possibilities. What's quirky here is the way debris sparked its own mini-mystery online. People started tracking the found pieces like collectibles, sometimes even fabricating stories about them. There's an odd sort of community fascinated by the mundane. A bathtub piece, tire fragments, bits of insulation, each one carrying a somber significance. The discovery of a flaperon on Reunion Island in 2015 became a pivotal factual anchor in this uncertain sea of conjecture. You feel the tension between scientific rigor and public speculation as this floating evidence both drives forward the search and fuels wild theories. Each new piece, each analysis, becomes a flicker in the murky world of MH370 mystery, sometimes illuminating, sometimes obscuring the truth further. Despite the uncertainty, the debris gives families, investigators, and the public something tangible to grasp, keeping the hope alive even as the deeper secrets remain submerged in the ocean's shadow. The broken pieces may not solve everything, but they ensure the story of MH370 persists in minds and waves alike. Now, brace yourself, because the waters around MH370 quickly become a breeding ground for theories so wild they could almost be fiction. You watch as every twist and turn invites speculation: hijackings, pilot suicide, alien abductions, secret military operations, and government cover-ups. It's like a dark carnival where facts share the stage with fantasy, and sometimes the two blur so well, it's hard to tell which is which. Historians still argue whether the widespread public fascination with conspiracy theories helped keep attention alive or simply muddied official investigations. You float through forums and interviews, noticing how these stories morph over time. One day, it's a rogue pilot taking control. The next, it's a shadowy cabal hiding the truth to protect national secrets. Each theory reflects the anxieties of our times: fear of terrorism, distrust of governments, and a deep-rooted need to explain the unexplainable. Here's a quirky nugget. There were claims that MH370 was part of a secret project involving cyber hijacking, essentially hacking an airplane remotely, something science fiction authors might chuckle at, but some conspiracy buffs swear by. Even the airplane's black boxes, those legendary holy grails of crash investigation, gained mythical status because they were never found. Despite the bizarre claims, you see that the search teams stayed rooted in scientific methods, combing through data and dismissing fanciful stories while trying to maintain transparency. The clash of reason and rumor became a defining part of the MH370 saga, shaping the way people consumed news and formed opinions. In this section of the story, you realize MH370 is no longer just about lost technology or tragic fate. It's also a mirror held up to humanity's hope, fears, and relentless urge to find meaning in darkness. That mix of evidence, emotion, and imagination keeps the mystery alive and endlessly fascinating. You now step into the world where technology and tactics wage their own battle against the unknown. The search for MH370 turned into a cutting-edge odyssey involving satellites, underwater drones, ocean drift models, and supercomputers. You watch experts decoding satellite signals known as handshakes, or pings, from the plane's engines, little data packets that kept leaking after it disappeared from primary radar. This complex satellite data analysis marked a breakthrough, but it was anything but straightforward. Historians still argue whether the interpretation of these satellite signals marked a genuine leap in search techniques, or if some early miscalculations set back the hunt. The engineering minds behind the scenes pored over every byte, trying to reconstruct a ghost flight path across the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, hydrodynamic specialists modeled how ocean currents might carry debris over thousands of miles and years, mapping invisible pathways like detectives tracking a phantom. Quirk alert: the ocean search relied on autonomous underwater vehicles that looked like futuristic fish, almost alive in the darkness. They scoured the seabed with sonar, sending back eerie echoes of an invisible landscape that stretched endlessly below. It's a high-tech dive into a watery graveyard, with human hopes riding on circuits and sensors. The tactics evolved too, triangulating data from multiple sources, coordinating international teams to cover vast areas, and constantly adjusting search zones based on new findings. The blend of human ingenuity and computational power became a centerpiece of this hunt against time, nature, and uncertainty. You feel the grip of both awe and frustration. Here's cutting-edge science battling one of the most complex disappearances ever recorded, yet the plane remains elusive. The high-tech chase continues, driven by progress, but shadowed by lingering doubts about what more could have been done. Now you shift your gaze from machines and maps to the human heart of the story, the families. Imagine yourself walking beside the loved ones of MH370's passengers and crew, people caught in an agonizing limbo between hope and despair. These families became accidental pioneers of grief, their lives forever divided into before and after. March 8, 2014. You see their faces in media coverage, hear their pleas in interviews, and feel their ongoing struggle for answers and closure. Historians still argue whether the way authorities handled communication with families set a new standard or revealed significant flaws in crisis management. You witness moments of raw emotion, joint press conferences, and private meetings where the families demanded transparency, truth, and respect, often feeling the weight of political and bureaucratic barriers. A quirky but touching detail. Some families started virtual memorials online, creating digital gardens or islands of remembrance where friends and strangers alike could leave messages, light virtual candles, or simply sit in solidarity. These digital memorials became a unique blend of mourning and community building, a new-age way to cope with a mystery with no clear end. You also sense how these families' quests stirred public empathy worldwide, breaking barriers of nationality and culture. The MH370 tragedy unfolded not just in the Indian Ocean, but in hearts and homes across continents, binding people through shared loss and relentless hope. In this deeply human dimension, the story transcends technology and theories. It becomes a testament to resilience and the profound need for closure in the face of the unknowable. As you walk beside these families, you understand the search isn't just about a plane, it's about healing invisible wounds carried in silence. You now fast forward to 2025, peering over the shoulders of new search teams armed with the latest technology and fresh perspectives. The MH370 search, though slowed for years, saw revitalization with new funding, data analysis, and innovative underwater exploration methods. This phase is another testament to humankind's refusal to let mysteries linger untouched. Historians still argue whether these 2025 search efforts represent a meaningful breakthrough or are more symbolic gestures to honor past hopes. You watch as teams deploy advanced sonar drones, autonomous underwater vehicles that can dive deeper and scan wider, coupled with refined ocean drift models predicting new search coordinates. One quirky upgrade emerged in the use of AI-powered algorithms that process vast amounts of oceanic and satellite data, identifying patterns even seasoned analysts might miss. These tools help narrow down search zones, marrying cutting-edge tech with decades of accumulated knowledge. You feel the tension of hope mingling with skepticism. It's a cautious optimism driven by years of disappointment, yet powered by technological leaps. Recent findings hint at possible new targets, but nothing conclusive yet. The 2025 search shows how the legacy of MH370 drives innovation, but also how some mysteries resist the clock, lingering like stubborn ghosts. Despite fatigue, the global community watches with rapt attention, a collective holding of breath for closure, answers, and perhaps finally peace. The story is far from over, but every new dive, every new ping, is a step toward unraveling what remains the aviation enigma of our time. As this long, intricate journey of MH370 approaches its latest chapter, you find yourself surrounded by silence, the silence of what remains unknown. You peer into the abyss of unanswered questions that outlast every search, every theory, every tear. What caused the disappearance? Where exactly is the wreckage? Will black boxes ever be found? These questions hover like ghostly whispers, refusing to be silenced. Historians still argue over the lessons, whether MH370 changed aviation forever or simply exposed vulnerabilities we barely understood. The emotional and investigative echoes ripple across time, a story that's more than just missing metal and lost lives. It's about the limits of human understanding confronted by inexplicable loss. A quirky thought to cling to. Some researchers suggest using deep-sea DNA sampling to detect traces of human presence near potential wreck sites, a futuristic approach blending biology and technology that seems like spy sci-fi, but might just work one day. These imaginative efforts suggest humanity's stubborn hope and creativity in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. You reflect on the emotional shadows cast on families, searchers, and the world, how a single flight became a symbol of lost trust. The fragile thread of certainty snapped mid-air, and yet the story continues to draw attention, debate, and empathy worldwide. It remains a haunting riddle, a modern-day myth of the sky and sea. As you sit with this lingering mystery, you realize MH370 refuses to be neatly boxed or forgotten. Instead, It lives on in unanswered questions, the tireless quests for truth and quiet remembrance. The plane may have vanished, but its story remains vivid, urging us to search deeper, hope stronger, and perhaps, one day, finally understand the silence. Now, as we slow down from this vast, swirling ocean of mystery and unanswered questions, let your mind gently drift away from sharp edges and restless thoughts. Imagine the sun setting softly over calm waves, casting a warm, fading light that tints everything with a peaceful glow. The vastness that once seemed intimidating now feels like an embrace, quiet, steady, and infinite. The search, the theories, the emotional storms, all begin to fade into a gentle hush, as if the sea itself wraps the story in a comforting lullaby. In this soft silence, you find space to breathe deeper, your muscles loosening, your heartbeat syncing with the slow, rhythmic pulse of distant tides. The faces and voices of those who waited and wondered settle into the gentle folds of memory, no longer urgent but tender and respectful. This is a moment to honor the enduring hope, the collective humanity, and the quiet strength that keeps stories like MH370 alive in our hearts and minds. As your eyelids grow heavier, imagine the ocean waves continuing their timeless dance far beyond the horizon, carrying not just lost fragments, but also the whispered wishes of those who remember, seek, and dream. Feel a soothing calm wash over you, soft as the night air, wrapping you in reassurance that some mysteries unfold in their own time. And until then, their stories become part of our shared silence. Rest easy now. Carry this peaceful calm with you, and let the quiet hum of the night guide you towards